Unsolved Mysteries Rewind is a commercial-free podcast that focuses on cases featured on the television show Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. Each episode features a single case and, if possible, updates and an expansion on the original story. Listener discretion is advised for listeners who are sensitive to true crime details.
Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries Rewind, two friends get together to discuss episodes of their favorite television show, Unsolved Mysteries. Will they find answers? Will anyone care? You may be able to solve a mystery.
Hello and welcome back to Unsolved Mysteries Rewind. I'm Catherine, here with Mark.
Hey, Catherine, how you doing?
I'm good, Mark. And today we're going to do a segment from Season 4, Episode 3, called Who's Tyler?
There's a rabbit hole everywhere in this story.
This story is textbook definition of rabbit holes. I almost skipped over it because it's an amnesia case. The update, this is one of the ones where the update is so much better than the actual segment.
Actually, I would have to say even more so that the update that's not on Unsolved Mysteries is even more interesting in the comments made by Stephanie Thomas. I really wish we could have somehow reached out to her and asked her to be on the show. So I have a feeling she would have fun with this.
She would probably do it. On January 20th, 1991, a young man was found wandering aimlessly through the desert 30 miles from Las Vegas, Nevada. He was dressed in 3 layers of clothing, carried no identification, and had apparently been in the desert for at least 3 days.
Yeah, somebody found him. We're not really sure how that happened. He's probably just walking on the side of the road and collapsed, and he was rushed to the hospital. And when he recovered, when he woke up, they diagnosed him with psychogenic amnesia, which is supposedly caused by emotional trauma.
One thing that I was really curious about, they said he was suffering from exposure and extreme dehydration.
Mm-hmm.
So he was out there by himself for 3 days. I know I asked you what the weather is like in Las Vegas, and it's chilly, but not super cold or not super hot. So I don't know what exposure means in this case.
Keep in mind, it's the desert, so it is extremely dry, right?
Okay.
Also, with the sun, even if it's 58 degrees out, it's direct sun. So you could still, I just think, being exposed to the elements, not having any form of shelter. Also, you mix that in with dehydration, and he's wearing 3 layers of clothing. Very, very odd.
Okay.
He didn't know what his name was. Obviously, his amnesia. The staff gave him the name of Tyler, and they had enrolled him in a state program, which I never heard of a state program like this, that provides him with housing and employment. I almost feel like this is Canadian. I just don't know of the United States having such a program like this.
They do have programs like that for special needs adults. So maybe he was able to get in. Maybe
he falls into that category because of his situation. No missing reports were put out, which I think is very strange. That's another thing to discuss in a bit. One of the things that was very, very odd is that his fingerprints were not on record anywhere. And I was thinking about this because we do learn a little bit more about why his fingerprints probably were on file.
We learn a lot more, actually.
But here's the thing. I was in 1991, sure, computers existed on some level. When you run fingerprints now, things are a bit more advanced. I would imagine that if you were running fingerprints back then, how are they comparing these smudgy fingerprints? I mean, is it all by eye? I mean, imagine having the job of matching fingerprints. I'm a smudgist. I look at smudges all day. I don't know. I mean, computers could absolutely look for these patterns and find them. But I don't know. In 1991, random guy in the desert fingerprint I think it's going to take a lot longer than just a few months to do this type of thing and to find a match. I mean, millions and millions of fingerprints are on file everywhere.
The doctors at the hospital found 2 clues to his past life, evidence of hairline fractures on the knuckles of both hands, and what they believed to be a gunshot wound on his right thigh.
He had an exciting past, I think is what they were trying to say here. And at this point, Unsolved Mysteries is telling a story that a lot of people saw as, I mean, this story went from one story to another, which is interesting. When it was first portrayed, that was it. I mean, this is pretty much it. They ended the story at this point with the first presentation.
They did give us a couple more clues before the initial update.
But I mean, initially, I think with the first airing of this, there was, without the updates, it was just a man who lost his memory. We even have him on the screen, and he remembered some stuff, but he had not recovered any information about himself until after the first airing.
He got the odd feeling that he had lived in San Diego, California, after talking with a fellow patient who had lived there, under hypnosis. And you said, is it that important for him to remember who pays for this?
I'm always about who pays for this, but
I would imagine the producers of Unsolved Mysteries paid for it.
Okay. I didn't even think of that, but all right. Yeah, I accept that. Yeah.
I think they had footage of the hypnosis in the segment.
Yeah, because we actually have the real Tyler in this.
Mm-hmm. Under hypnosis, he began to remember a lot about beaches and military bases. Despite not knowing his real name, he found he could dismantle and rebuild a car engine and had knowledge about scuba diving, martial arts, computer programming, and military aircraft.
Now, do you understand my reference? I don't know. It might go over your head. Not that go over your head. You just don't have the time to watch every 80s TV show.
I watch a lot more 80s TV than you would think.
Okay. So I said he sounds like MacGyver. He really sounds like the beginning intro of a 1980s like adventure TV show with the scuba diving.
I prefer the A-Team, but MacGyver is still good.
He could be a member of the A-Team. Absolutely. That's even better. So yeah, I mean, it seems as though he has this knowledge that a normal person might not possess. They even in the reenactment show him going up in a plane. Like, sure, you know what? Let's let the guy who has amnesia fly a plane. Sure. Who pays for that?
Probably Unsolved Mysteries again. Because this is season 4. It's probably a successful show by then.
Hold on. If Unsolved Mysteries is paying for this, right? They are getting emotionally invested in this guy.
Yeah.
All right, let's put him under hypnosis and find out. Hey, you want to fly a plane? Let's fly a plane. Let's try to get this all out.
He had a flight instructor with him. I think the flight instructor was doing some of the work, but by the end of the flight, he did land it all by himself. And the flight instructor said he was a little rusty, but he definitely had knowledge of aircraft.
Things are getting a little bit weird here.
Much of this suggested a military past, but no record of anybody matching his description could be found. Unsolved Mysteries ends the segment with a plea to the public saying Tyler's state-funded program is about to run out and he's going to be homeless with no job and no ID. So, update. A man contacted the telecenter, and it's unclear in the update who it was, but through message boards, it's his father. Mm-hmm. So his father contacted Unsolved Mysteries, and his real name is Arthur Paul Beal. And in the
reenactment, he reaches for the pad and pen to write down his name. How do you spell that?
I missed that.
It's like, how do you, A-R, yeah.
So they show him on the phone with a producer, says, we found your father, we found your mother, you have a wife who you're separated from, 2 kids, and he's like writing it down.
Now, let me just ask you, put yourself in this situation just for a moment. You find out you have a wife, 2 kids, your father reached out, and you have a mother out there. Who do you reach out to first? You think. I mean, all right, you have amnesia. You're not really 100% sure, but instinctively, who do you think you would reach out to out of all of these people?
I think I would reach out to the first person who called in. So
The stepfather, or
it
maybe
was
the father.
the father was the first person to reach out to Unsolved Mysteries. So I think I would reach out to the father first, and then I would go from there.
You wouldn't reach out to, say, your husband, who you have 2 kids with.
I definitely would. The first person to reach out, I would reach out to would be, I think, the person who identified me.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. That makes a lot of sense. It's a comfortability there. I can get the whole story. You reached out to me, I can get the whole story. I can approach you. You're a welcoming person. Maybe you're hated by your spouse, and that's why nobody knows who you are, because nobody even bothered to report you missing. Which is a whole other conversation. So yeah, he reaches out to his mother.
Yep. But not anybody else.
Right.
He was married with 2 children and lived in Boise, Idaho. So the producers of Unsolved Mystery is on the phone with him, giving all this information. And a short time after contacting his mother and stepfather, but not anybody else, Las Vegas police showed up at his apartment and arrested him for grand larceny. He was wanted in Boise for stealing a shipment of frozen food from a supply company that he worked at as a salesman.
Did you hear what the police officer said when they were arresting him? He said, "How long have you had amnesia?" He said, 9 months. How would you know that if you have amnesia? It's like, what?
Well, he
knows 9 months,
Yeah, because that's probably when he was in the hospital.
No, I mean, it's of course he knows how long he's been out of this state. He knows how long. It's not like he doesn't have a concept of time anymore. It's just a weird kind of. It was like a police officer not understanding maybe what amnesia is.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that Unsolved Mysteries would leave it in there. So it's Arthur Paul Beal all of a sudden. A short time after contacting his mother and stepfather, they found that
he was arrested.
Yeah, he was arrested for stealing a shipment of frozen food. And the timeline there is a little bit weird. It's almost like he was traveling with the frozen food for a really long time, which I guess is possible.
The timeline that you dug up was weird. So on January 5th, 1991.
Before the amnesia. This is like going back in time.
Yeah, he went to Las Vegas to sell food. 3 weeks later, on January 25th, he and the food showed up in Boulder City. Is that near Las Vegas?
I'm going to look it up.
He was questioned by police, told about the potential charges against him, and if it wasn't returned to Boise. Was he even supposed to be in Las Vegas in the first place? Like, was he supposed to be selling the food in Boise and he tried to take it to Vegas to sell it on the black market?
Just to add to what we were just saying, Boulder City is 25 miles from Las Vegas.
Okay.
They're both in Nevada. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 3 weeks kind of go by, and we don't know there's a lot of kind of missing stuff. Like, what did he do for 3 weeks? I mean, the truck can't be accounted for. It's kind of odd.
So he said he would head back to Boise immediately, and 3 days later he was found wandering aimlessly in the desert.
And we also don't know if anybody ever found the truck. Nobody talks about that much. But some believe, which actually I don't know if I could say you, but I think you, but apparently his dad, his ex-wife, me, and maybe you, believe that he never had amnesia, that he faked it in order to avoid prosecution, which kind of didn't work.
No, it didn't.
Paul's mother in the reenactment is really, really a prime example of a coddling mother.
Mm-hmm.
It's, it's one thing to love your child and to accept all of their flaws. It's another thing to just accept all of their nonsense. And that's what I think that the mother is just, I don't care, Paul, you would never lie to me. And it's just, she's basically telling herself that there's no way Paul would lie to her. And I don't know. It looks like he's just completely full of crap in the reenactment to me. What kind of vibe did you get from him when he was spending time with his mother?
It was cringy and awkward. And
I don't remember you,
Oh, but you will call it's okay.
I'll make your lemon squares that you love.
In Unsolved Mysteries, Paul's mother, according to Unsolved Mysteries, Paul's mother, Lynn, traveled to Las Vegas to post bail for her son,
Yep.
except on some message boards and comments. So his ex-wife has a lot to say online. She is very present on message boards. According to his ex-wife, Stephanie, his father identified him, not his mother or stepfather. His father
Bio
paid the
dad,
bail, but his mother and stepfather were the ones to pick him up. The two were reunited, although Paul claimed he could not remember her. After returning to Boise, he spent 90 days in jail for petty theft, and his criminal case is now closed. Again, according to Stephanie, his father paid restitution.
But we don't know how much or anything.
Well, what's the difference between petty theft and grand larceny? It has to...
In Nevada, I mean, each state's going to have their different laws.
It's several $1,000s, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's probably the difference between maybe $5,000 and $15,000 or something like that.
A decent chunk of change,
I mean,
at
completely.
the very least. And I'm sure the fact that his father paid restitution got the charge down to petty theft as opposed to grand larceny.
But I found one reference where even his father stated that many think he's faking, including his own father. I don't have a source for where that statement originates in the sense of, but I did find it on the Wayback Machine. I found this little reference to it. I mean, anybody could write that. It's just somebody's blog. But Stephanie Thomas is a firecracker. She goes on to putting some of the stuff aside because clearly she's not a fan of her ex-husband, who might even be a bit of a deadbeat dad, possibly.
She goes on to really tear him a new one.
Stephanie claims to have never reunited with him, only spoken to him on the phone.
Yeah.
Isn't that really odd? Why would he not want to meet his wife?
The mother of his children.
Right.
Stephanie claims that...
I'm not sure if he reunited with his kids either. It's all just very odd.
No. So Stephanie claims, too, that she tried to get this segment pulled from rotation to protect her kids because she said, look, this guy is full of shit. I don't want my kids to see this, and I don't want his lies to fall back on my kids. Clearly it didn't work because it's still on the Amazon.
Yeah, she said that she's reached out to them several times, and really they feel as though there's no reason to pull it.
It's interesting. It's definitely an entertaining case, even if we know he's not all that truthful. But she said, since they won't pull the segment from rotation, I'm going to set everybody straight. And that's why she's so forthcoming online and on message boards.
Yeah, some of the things that she went and started pointing out was telling people to replay the reunion scene where he gets bailed out of jail, and you could see in his body language, in her opinion, that he recognizes his mother and holds himself stiff to act like he doesn't. And if you do watch it, it's definitely strange where he gets emotional when he's with her, like in a very odd way. When he goes back to Boise to clear up the theft charges, he supposedly made many mistakes when interacting with his father. He supposedly, when he was in court, these are things we can't see because we don't have record of them. But he made reference to people he would know where he was about to wave to people that he would recognize, but instead he turned away last moment and then refused to look at them.
Yeah, I saw that too. Today, according to relatives, he suffered a heart attack in November of 2007, leaving him in a minimally conscious state.
He's in a wheelchair, I believe.
Yeah, whether his amnesia was genuine or faked will possibly never be determined. So a couple of points that Stephanie makes that I want to point out. None of this matters anymore. This guy has been stuck in a wheelchair for almost 10 years, but let me count the ways.
I think it's a nice comment, by the way. I think it's one of these things where she's actually giving a little bit of sympathy to this guy.
Yeah.
But she doesn't hold back either. That's why we love Stephanie.
She said, I was contacted by Unsolved Mysteries the night it aired, and I gave them all of my contact information, including the fact that he had 2 small children. He never inquired about the children. Second, he had 3 phone numbers given to him. One was for his father in Idaho that originally identified him, mine and his mother. Instead of calling the guy that identified him or the woman with his children, he chose to call his mother, who would be most likely to believe his story.
And that's kind of what we were saying. He's a bit of a mama's boy, maybe. So, yeah, I mean, and again, this is all hearsay. This is all Stephanie posting a blog on a forum online. We don't even know if this is for sure Stephanie, but it sure seems like it is.
Yeah, she also said he stayed away from everybody he knew. All of his family was in the Midwest, his sisters, his mother, and his stepfather, but he stayed west. She said a normal person that had lost their memory would have chosen to be around people that might spark their memory.
She also said his mother is an idiot, and her great advice was that a woman always assumes more responsibility in a relationship than a man. She may as well accept the fact that he's such an awful person and just go back to him. It really seems like they do have that kind of relationship. The mother's always going to protect her particular son, and that's it. We also don't know if he is an only child. I couldn't find any siblings.
Seems like it.
Yeah, he seems like it. It just the mother definitely seems like this is all she has.
And Stephanie also says he was a sonar tech in the Navy, but has no flight experience.
Which is odd, because he landed
why
that
wouldn't
plane.
they have their fingerprints?
The only way I could see, eventually you would think, like, oh yeah, we got his fingerprint match, 5 years later. But no, I would imagine, was he an Eagle Scout maybe? That's why he knows about scuba. We're not really sure. There's a lot of weirdness with this. There's a lot to read. I think we should release all of her posts. I've archived them all. You just never know when this stuff is just going to vanish. So I'm going to post it for people to just kind of read. But all in all, what is your opinion here? Is he a liar? Or do you think he has amnesia?
I think he's a liar.
Well, in our forum group, Unsolved Mysteries Rewind on Facebook, one of our members, Lindsay Soto, has a question. And she is asking, why would someone lie about having amnesia to avoid prosecution for a fairly low crime level and then go on national television?
I think he just didn't think it through.
Mm-hmm. My opinion is it started out as genuine amnesia. When he regained his memory, he preferred his new life over this other one. It was his way of restarting. People are giving him a job. People are giving him his new friends. When he gets that phone call from his mom, or when he calls it, I forget if he called his mom or his mom called him, he's surrounded by new friends.
I think they also may have mentioned a fiance.
Really? No, I missed that.
I could be wrong.
I know he got remarried or something. I didn't know at that time, and we're talking months later.
There was another case. It was early on in Unsolved Mysteries. It was an older gentleman, and he went missing. They found his car on the side of the road. He had a wife and kids and just vanished. Mm-hmm. And there was an update. He was found when he was in his early 20s before he met his wife. He was arrested for stealing office supplies or something from a bank he worked at. So he went on the run. He didn't know that the charges had been dropped, but he had met his wife and started a family.
Wow.
And he was about to turn 65 and going to collect Social Security, but he knew he couldn't collect the Social Security because he wasn't who he said he was. And he met his wife after being on the run.
So he left behind this entire life for some charges that ended up being dropped.
Right. So in the update, they interview the wife, and you can tell the wife is pissed.
Rightfully so.
In his case, he went on the run and then didn't even know that the charges were dropped.
Genius.
In response to Lindsay's question, maybe he faked amnesia thinking the charges were more serious than they ended up being.
Definitely possible. He seems like a smart guy, though. He doesn't seem like a complete dope. I didn't know about this case until you brought it up. So I'm really glad you brought it up. We have a little bit of a varied opinion, but I think the bottom line is both of our opinions touch upon the fact that whether or not it started out as amnesia, he certainly lied.
Yes.
When he recovered, he's lying.
One last quote from Stephanie.
Oh, it's the best quote.
She says, "This has the makings of a Lifetime movie. I want Jodie Foster to play me."
Stephanie, if you're listening, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Catherine, thank you so much for another fun-filled episode. I really appreciate your time and all the work that you put into the research.
Tonight, we have been confronted with an entire catalog of unexplained and unsolved events. Tune in next time as Unsolved Mysteries Rewind discusses another collection of unsolved mysteries. Until then, we can only look and wonder.